Pay attention, Sosuke. In contrast to the after-school ruckus, Konami Chidori spoke decidedly seriously. A strong-willed girl, her black hair reached her hips and was held in place by a neat red ribbon. She conducted her instructions to the male student in front of her with a rigid index finger. We need 2,000 sheets of large-sized copy paper. It's in bundles of 500 sheets, so just sneak in and get 4 of those. Got it? Understood, Sosuke Saga responded crispy. There were little about Sosuke that wasn't crisp. His words, his color, and his movements all were rigid. His face was tense and unforgiving. He glanced at the door to the staff room. You know where to find the paper, right? Yes, it's all the way in the back, next to the copier. Good, let's review the plan. You create a diversion, engaging Mr. Sayama in conversation. While you have his attention, I'll plunder the paper and make a speedy withdrawal. Satisfied, Konami noted. I wouldn't call it plundering exactly. After all, it isn't a fault there was a staff miscommunication that led to his print under drawing close flyers. We're not plundering, we're just covering the losses. Deciding not to object to this justification, Sosuke focused on another concern. What if your diversion doesn't provide significant cover? The teacher might notice. It's your job to scheme. Find a way to get in and out unseen. Very well. I will scheme. Okay, Sosuke, let's go. Konami led the way inside. She made her way through the rear of the office, greeting all the teachers she knew along the way. Eventually, she reached the overused copier in the back. Next to the nearly obsolete machine, a 4-year-old social studies teacher sat grading tests. Konami positioned herself between the man and the machine, hoping it was enough to keep him from spotting Sosuke. Hello, Mr. Sayama. Mr. Sayama's chair creaked as he swiveled to greet her. Miss Chidori, what brought you here today? Well, I have a question that I forgot to ask yesterday. When were we talking about ancient India? Yes, I have to know. In ancient India, did everybody have names as weird as Shandarapa too? Mr. Sayama laughed heartily. That's a strange question, but the name has a particular meaning. You see, the Gappa Empire. Pop! Following the firecracker-like noise, thick white smoke spread through the air behind Konami. What the? By the time Konami turned around to see what had happened, she couldn't see 2 inches in front of her face. What's happening? Demanded Sayama, coughing violently. The smoke began to spread through the staff room. One of the other teachers in the office screamed, then another. Soon everyone was in a complete state of panic. What is this? Choking violently. Konami steadied herself on a nearby bookshelf. Someone finally grabbed her arm. Sosuke, mission accomplished. Speedy withdrawal. Oh. With the bundles of paper under one arm and Konami's wrist in the other, Sosuke emerged from the smoke. Then she made a break for the exit. Save us! It's a fire! Yelled one teacher. The ceiling sprinkler activated, drenching the room. Save us! It's a flood! Howled another teacher. Pushing through the cacophony, Sosuke and Konami rushed out of the staff office and continued running until they were safely in a far-off hallway. Konami caught her breath. We should be safe here, insisted Sosuke. They both were soaked from head to toe, thanks to the sprinkler's good attentions. Looking slightly less than amused, Konami wrung the water from her skirts. What on earth was that? It was smoke bomb, Sosuke answered matter-of-factly. What? You said to scheme. The smoke bomb cut all the visibility in the office so we can get the paper out safely without them seeing our faces. It's much more effective than a crude diversion. To avert suspicion, I'll make a phone call later at either the IRA or the JRA or some other terrorist organization claiming responsibility. That way, walk. Konami delivered a right hook that sent Sosuke spinning to the floor. For about 3 seconds, he remained motionless. Then he rose quickly to his feet. That hurt. Shut up, you maniac walnut. What's the big deal? Look, you ruined the paper. Konami shoved the sopping bundles of paper in his face. Perhaps we can still use it after we dry it. You are such a moron. I don't care if you're some kind of secret mercenary. You need to learn some common sense. Sosuke grew quiet and began to sweat. He looked at a cat that had been scolded from bringing home a gift of a decapitated mouse. He had been trying to help in his own way. For Konami, Sosuke's good intention made that much harder to chastise him. Oh good grief, he thought, bringing her hands to her head. After all, it wasn't Sosuke's fault that he grew up in the international's hot zones and had no idea how to live in peaceful Japan. Coincidentally, no matter how hard he tried, everything he did seemed to backfire. creating trouble where none existed previously. Pretty much everyone at school thought he was an idiot of the highest degree. Gee, what did I ever do to deserve someone this useless? Konami lamented internally. But Konami already knew the answer. If she didn't, she would have stopped being a friend a long time ago. Konami had an obligation to get into Sosuke's business, to lecture him, and to deal with the aftermath of his messes. There were the reasons she could not hate him. She suddenly remembered the various complex reasons Sosuke was the way he was. She knew Sosuke had another identity, one that he kept secret from the rest of the students, who thought he was nothing more than a useless war nut. Outside the walls of the high school, Sosuke Saga also was secretly a first-class soldier, part of a top-notch military organization. Konami knew this because of a certain incident. It was through this incident that Konami and Sosuke had been acquainted. Konami recalled the circumstances behind the meeting. There had been grave danger, blossoming feelings, and a huge mystery, one that remained practically unsolved. That event after effects still lingered in their everyday lives. Indeed, it all started 1 month earlier. Chapter 1. School Assignment. I'll just as soon die. Violently bouncing around in an automobile's interior, the girl continued to make grim assessments of her situation. Mud from the sloshy road splattered across the windshield, obscuring the Confucius trees that barely were visible in the farthest reaches of the headlights. The girl caught a glimpse of a reflection in the side view mirror, a pale face, groaning in her thumb as if possessed. I should be Tanner from tennis practice. Why am I so flattered? How long has it been since my last tennis practice? A week? A month? A year? Time's not important. I can't go home anyway. It'd be easier if you just killed me now. Almost there, shouted the vehicle driver, a gruff man who was wearing a stiff military uniform. In just a couple of miles, we'll be in the mountain district. From there, you'll be able to return to Japan. Liar. We never get away in a vehicle like this. Those people will capture me, drug me, strip me, and lock me up again in that water tank. That deep, dark water tank. A place where nothing exists but endless, meaningless questions. No matter how much I beg, they won't let me out. I'll do anything, just let me out. They won't hear me. I can't even hear myself. Gradually, they will break me. The only thing I have left is biting my nails. That's all I can do. It is my only joy. Nails are fantastic. They hurt, they bleed, they're great. Blood comes out. It dissolves. Nails. 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 Stop that. The man brushed the girl's hand away from her mouth. For a moment, she stared absently at him. Let me bite, or else kill me. Let me bite. The man's face contoured with pity as the girl's speech devolved into a pathetic stutter, like that of a broken tape deck. His sympathy turned to anger. Those scumbags did some bad things to you, didn't they? A bright flash of light behind the vehicle punctuated the man's sentiment, inspiring him to crunk the wheel furiously. The light painted a streak across the sky as it sealed over the fleeing Jeep. A rocket! An explosion set flames and debris hurtling through the front of the Jeep, which scuttled sideways. The windshield scattered, and the Jeep toppled and rolled through the flames. Not wearing a seatbelt, the girl was tossed clear of the wreck through the side window. If she had taken a breath at that moment, or if she had opened her mouth to scream, the whirling flames would have scalded her lungs. Sadly, she lacked the willpower to scream. Crashing shoulder first into the snowy, muddy ground, she tumbled to a stop. Although laid out like a doll, the girl had no desire to move, but a cloudy consciousness cleared. When she slowly lifted her head, she saw the mostly destroyed Jeep snap in half like a twig, its rear wheels spinning fluidly. The girl tried to get up, but there was no strength in her shoulder. It was either broken or dislocated. Oddly enough, however, she felt no pain. She half crawled through the automobile wreckage, spying the battered and bloody driver pinned beneath some of the car's plating. Take this, he gasped, holding out a CD case with a tumbling hand. Go south. His eyes were wet with tears. Hurry, run! And that was it for him. His tear-flooded eyes was still half open, forever frozen in a gish. The girl did not understand why the man was crying. Pain? Fear of death? Something else? Suddenly her survival instincts kicked in. She stood, took the CD case, and began to plop one dirty bloody foot after another through the mud. She had no idea which way was south, but she walked in a straight line regardless, continually biting her thumbnail as she went. Vultures chopped noisily through the air. An engine howled as it sucked in air and gas. It was a helicopter, and it was approaching quickly. The force swayed in the man-made wind. The girl looked up to see a great attack helicopter, its body rugged and gnarled like an old tree. How ugly, she thought. Halt, warned the helicopter external speaker, or you will be shot to death. Of course, she did not halt. She continued to drag in a straight line. Where do you think you're going? The helicopter machine gun fired a few rounds into the ground near the girl. Clunks of earth flew through the air, and the girl fell to the ground. Bad girl gets punished. As she tried to pick herself up using one good arm, a smattering of shots shot the ground around her. The impact of the bullets in the ground near the girl made it impossible for her to get up. The sounds of laughter came through the helicopter's loudspeaker. Determined, the girl continued to crawl. Oh, poor little girl. Look how worn out she is, and still she keeps. The voice cut out, leaving only the sound of the chopper spinning blades. Look out! It's an AS. Increase out. The high-pitched sound of crashing metal interrupted the pilot. The helicopter became a veritable spark factory. The girl looked up and saw something sticking out of the machine's nose. A knife? It was a huge knife, a throwing knife as large as a person. The red-hot blade stuck clear through the helicopter's nose. Fighting a losing battle with gravity, the attack helicopter lurched in a great speed. Fishtailing like crazy, it hurtled through the girl. She had neither the time nor the aspiration to move from its path. She stayed rooted in place, watching the hunk of iron that would bring her demise. Then out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of an extremely large figure. The mysterious figure straddled her, spread its arms, braced its legs, and stood in front of the oncoming helicopter. Crash! Scraps of metal flew around, and small parts rained from the sky. The grating sounds of grinding gears and usually spinning turbines played an aircraft dirge duet. When the girl looked up, she saw that the giant human-like shape that caught the helicopter with its upper body. Its back bent vertically, and steam gushed from the joints in its arms, shoulders, hips, and knees. It began to walk, its heavy footsteps kicking up chunks of dirt and snow. The machine carried the helicopter a significant distance from the girl, whereupon it tossed the whirlybird into the forest. The chopper wreckage fell to the ground and exploded. The machine, which was roughly 26 feet tall, turned around. It was backlit by the flaming helicopter. Finally, the girl was able to get a good look at the mysterious behemoth, which greatly resembled an athletic person with long legs, tight wrists, massive chest, and burly arms. It just happened to be coated with armor plating. The machine looked like a fighter pilot wearing a helmet, and it carried a proportional gun and backpack, just like a person would. It's an armed slave, an assault trooper. The AS, a mechanized giant, returned to her side. Are you injured? Asked the humanoid machine in a calm male voice. I had to use an anti-tank dagger because the helicopter was so close to you. My shot cannon would have been much too powerful. Still in a state of shock, the girl said nothing. The AS knelt, braced itself with one of the giant mechanical hands, and lowered its head. It looked like a scene from a fairy tale. A great giant kneeling before a tattered princess. A hatch on an armed slave torso opened, and a soldier popped up through the hatch behind the machine's head. He wore a black pilot suit and small lightweight headgear that made it appear vaguely like a ninja when the light silhouetted him. First aid kit in hand, the AS operator climbed out of the weapon. He was young and Asian, with messy black hair, sharp eyes, a knitted bow, and a tight-lipped mouth. The soldier was still a boy, perhaps not much older than the girl he had come to rescue, but there was nothing childlike about his demeanor. He left no impression of the innocent and irresponsibility characteristics of boys his age. Why are you hurt? Asked the pilot. He spoke in Japanese, which surprised the girl. When she didn't respond, he asked her if she understood Japanese. She nodded almost imperceptibly. Are you with that man? She asked, pointing to the spot where the driver lay dead. Yes, I'm also part of Mithra. Mithra? An undercover military organization with no national affiliations. Again, the girl did not know how to respond. As the soldier began to administer first aid, the girl suddenly became cognizant of its intense pain. Her breathing became ragged, but she managed to speak through the wheezing. He died. Yes, it's a pity he did. He was trying to set me free. That's the kind of man he was. Doesn't it make you sad? The young soldier temporarily stopped wrapping her soldier in tape so he can consider her emotional state. I'm not sure, he finally said. After he finished wrapping the girl's soldier and arm, the young man began to prod and poke the girl's body without restraint or bashfulness. What are you going to do with me? First, I'll take you in my AS to the transport helicopter LZ. Once we're on the helicopter, we'll return to the mother ship, which is at sea. I don't know what happened after that. That's where our duty ends. Our duty? As if answering her question, two more armed slaves appeared. clearing a path through the trees while keeping a vigilant watch on the surroundings. They look almost identical to the first one, and they carried rifles and missile launchers. Don't worry, they were me. The pain began to take an even greater toll on the girl. Her field of vision narrowed, and her thoughts grew cloudy. She couldn't remember where she was. What's your name? She squeaked. It's best if you don't talk. You waste your strength. Please tell me. Hesitantly, the soldier contemplated revealing himself. Saga. Sosuke Saga. Before he could even finish saying it, however, the girl had passed out. Armed with a clipboard and a fruit-flavored cologne made, Sosuke entered the giant submarine overly suspicious hangar to work on his post-mission report. Most of the ship weaponry, armed slaves, transport, helicopters, VTOL fighters, and the like were lined up there. Sosuke glanced at one that was being repaired. Hey Sosuke, called an overbearing voice. Sosuke turned around to see his colleague, Sergeant Kurt Weber, blonde-haired and blue-eyed with a small chin and blue eyes. Kurtz was movie star handsome. His long, perfectly styled hair added a touch of gentlemanly charm. When he smiled, women's hearts beat faster. As soon as he opened his mouth, however, why the long face? Constipated? Hemorrhoids? No dignity. No class. I'm in perfect health, Sosuke responded absent-mindedly, taking a bite of his culinary mate. You're really dense, you know that? Kurt's gaze wandered to the AS that was being repaired. Its armor was off already. Wow, they already cracked it open, huh? Apparently, they're conducting a detailed inspection of the frame system. Well, you were pretty hard on it, I mean. You caught a helicopter. Weren't you scared? No. It wasn't an activity beyond the specs of the M9. The model AS both Sosuke and Kurtz used was called an M9 Gasback. It was totally cutting edge, not yet widely used in military circles. Compared to previous models of armed slaves, the M9 had extraordinary power and agility. I guess, but the M9 is the only mech that could pull that stunt, decided Kurtz as he took a seat on an empty ammo case. He stared at a line of M9s in a hangar. The armed slave was born in the mid-1980s. At the time, U.S. President Ronald Reagan strongly supported the development of a robot force to go along with Star Wars' strategic defense project, the next great development in localized dispute resolution, a grand technical challenge, a labor-saving contribution to infantry forces. Driven by suspicious rhetoric, the AS became reality just 3 years later. The humanoid weapon, once thought to be an impossible joke, now ran at speeds at more than 60 miles per hour, employed numerous weapons, and matched a tank in terms of strength. Specialists were blown away. After all, non-military bipedal robots barely could take a step or two while falling over. What genius had masterminded this project? What think tank had developed it? It's technology from interplanetary visitors, claim UFO fanatics, temporarily boosting the sales of the magazines and books. Eventually, however, people came to regard the AS the same way they saw the cruise missile or stealth fighter jet, as a very high-tech weapon. About 10 years later, AS technology continued to make explosive progress. It got to the point where it was dangerous to approach one carelessly, even in an attack helicopter. A thought interrupted Kurt's stare. Hey Sosuke, about that girl you picked up. Where she live? Yeah, but she was pretty doped up. Narcissics? Cannabinoids or something like that. They still don't know exactly, but they think it came from the KGB research faculty. I don't know what kind of experiments they're doing there, but they're pretty damn cool. Will she recover? Who knows? Even if she does, it probably will take a long time. Sosuke didn't know what to say. Although the superior officers seemed to know what kind of guinea pig the girl was, they didn't share the information with Sosuke and Kurtz. It was protocol, really. Frontline combatants rarely had all the details. The man who died in the Jeep was a spy from Mithros Intelligence Bureau. Saving the girl wasn't part of the original mission, which was to dig up information on the KGB research facility. However, he had suffered a tremendous twinge of conscience and put his own life at risk to rescue the test subject. In spite of the spy's death, the CD with the top secret information still made it back into Mithros' hands, thanks to Sosuke and the others. Breaking the silence, Master Sergeant Melissa Mao quickly entered the hangar. There you are. Solidly in her mid-20s, Mao was an American of Chinese descent. Her short black hair nicely framed her pretty face while masking her true spirited nature. Like Sosuke and Kurt, Mao was a skilled AS operator. The three of them often were lumped together as a team. and Mao always was the leader. Good work on the overtime, said Mao. Sosuke grunted and nodded. What's up, girl, says Kurtz. Wipe that grin off your face, mister. You always look like the comic relief around here. Do you know who you're talking to? It's me, Kurtz Weber, model extraordinaire. The delicious face graced the pages of Esquire, you know. Oh yeah, I think I saw that. Wasn't it a farce like that Charlie Sheen movie Hot Shots? You bitch. Quickly like a cat, Mao reached out and grabs Kurt's cheek. He yelped. What did you call me? She demanded. Just the smartest, prettiest, most debannable. That's what I thought, she said, letting go of his face. Quietly numbing, Sosuke watched the whole exchange. Mao noticed when he swallowed. Those things any good? Smiling, he nodded. Just the right sweetness. Cool, Sosuke. The literature commander wants to see you. Understood. You too, playboy. Aw, man, I thought you said we were off duty. Consider this a countermand, said Mao, laughing. I, however, am off duty. If you need me, I'll be in the bath. She cackled as she left. If that bitch knew what was good for her, commanded Kurtz, she'd be crying her name into my back. As she walked away, Kurtz flipped her backside the bird. What kind of curse is that? Wondered Sosuke. Knock, knock. Come in. Sosuke and Kurtz filed into the small room filled with documents, bookshelves, and a large man clad in an olive green combat uniform. Lieutenant Commander Kalilin. Although Kalilin had long gray hair, his beard and mustache were cropped short. Report and as ordered, sir, stated Sosuke, crisply saluting. Yeah, here we are. Kurtz submitted a half-hearted salute. Indifferent to Kurtz's attitude, Lieutenant Commander Kalinin looked up from the documents he was reading. There's a mission. Lieutenant Commander Kalinin didn't beat around the bush. He tossed a file folder towards Sosuke and Kurtz. Take a look at this. Yes, sir, replied Sosuke. You got it, quipped Kurtz. The documents in the file appeared to be a personal history, including a black and white photo of a smiling Asian girl. Roughly age 12 in the photo, the girl was nestled up against a woman, ostensibly her mother. With fair-skinned and clear-cut features, she was a lovely child. Kurtz whistled. I bet she grows up to be hot. Actually, the photo is 4 years ago, announced the lieutenant commander. She's 16 now. So where's the picture of her now? We don't have one. As he already was accustomed to Kurtz's manner, Sosuke paid him no attention, focusing instead on reading the girl's biographical information. According to the brief, her name was Konami Chidori, and she lived in Tokyo, Japan. Konami was a student in one of Tokyo's many high schools. Her father was a UN High Commissioner. She had one sibling, an 11-year-old sister who lived with her father in New York City. Her mother had died 3 years earlier. There were additional information, height, blood type, medical history, and more. The reports spared no details. One sentence popped out of Sosuke. Probability of being a blank, 88%, according to Miller Statistic Act. Sosuke knew that the word that had been censored haphazardly with black marker was the real reason Kurtz and he were being assigned this mission. So what happened to her? Asked Kurtz. Nothing, responded Cataline. Yet, huh? Kurtz grunted his confusion. Turning slightly in his creaky chair, the lieutenant commander looked at a map of the world that was mounted on the wall. It was up to date with the latest national borders, the complexity divided Soviet bloc, the split of the northern and southern Chinese territories, and the scramble of lines that made it the Middle East. All you two need to know is that there are a number of enemy agencies, including the KGB, that might want to kidnap Konami Chidori. Why? Inquired Kurtz. That, Kalinin said stoutly, is something you gentlemen do not need to know. Oh, right. It all seemed pretty vague to Kurtz. That girl, Konami Chidori, was only a potential target. What exactly is our mission? Pressed Sosuke. You guard the girl, naturally. I'm giving this one to you guys because you're both fluent in Japanese. I guess that makes sense. Kurtz's father was a newspaper correspondent, and coincidentally, Kurtz had lived in the Edogawa section of Tokyo until he was 14. Thus, he spoke the language like a pro. I briefed Master Sergeant Mao already. The three of you will handle this. That seemed like an awful lot of work to Kurtz. Whoa, just the three of us? I barely can spare that many. It decided already. Rough. Assessed Kurtz. That's why you're here. Sosuke, Kurtz, and Mao were more than just AS pilots. They were highly trained soldiers capable of airborne landings, reconnaissance, combat, and more. They were members of a team picked from numerous candidates, and to them, an AS was just one of the many tools of the trade. Upon Mao's assistance, at Grand U Class B equipment, the two soldiers' jaw dropped open. Would taking an armed slave? Asked Sosuke. Yes, but it is in the heart of a major city, protested Kurt. You just need to operate it in ECS invisible mode, reasoned Kalanin. Though the technology was pioneered from armed slaves, many modern weapons use some form of ECS, or electromagnetic camouflage system. Using hologram technology, the cutting-edge stealth equipment can hide very large objects from radar and infrared rays. Mithril's ECS systems were so advanced that it can nullify visible light wavelengths. In other words, it made them invisible. It took a lot of energy, so invisibility was not practical or even possible during combat, but it was no problem when the vehicle was sitting still or hiding. You take one M9 with you. Armament will be minimal, so carry 2 external considered packs. Check, affirmed Kurtz. It's imperative that this mission is kept top secret. Say what? Kurtz frowned. If the Japanese government finds out, Kalini continued, it will get messy, so you must protect Konami without her or anyone else knowing. But you still must be ready when trouble comes. That sounds very... Kurtz struggled for words. Difficult? Concluded Sosuke. Guarding someone without her knowledge or permission was beyond her absurd. Depending on how you operate, it shouldn't be that difficult. This girl, Konami Chidori, spends most of her time at a co-ed public high school. Our youngest soldier is the same age as she is, and he's even Japanese. Oh ho ho! Kurt led up and turned to Sosuke, who blinked a few times under the scrutiny. You don't mean we're forging the student transfer paper right now, and Kailin signed the directive. Say cheese, Sosuke. Sosuke scrawled at the camera and at Kurt, its operator. Come on, man, goaded Kurt. You want a nice picture on your student ID? Calling on Little's muscles, Sosuke formed an expression that looked more like a facial nadraja than a smile. Close enough. Kurt snapped the picture. Like an elastic band that is stretched and released, Sosuke's face instantly returned to his most comfortable, solemn expression. Kurt sighed. What is all this? Sosuke asked, staring at a collection of items strewn across the table. He picked up some of the objects and scored them. A brush, some hair gel, a portable CD player, CDs by Hanaoshi Isaki and Semp, assorted charms for Nata-san Temple, a Game Boy, a Mr. Junko watch, cigarettes, energy drinks, glossy magazines, and a few other miscellaneous items of that nature. Melissa Mao beamed. I went around the ship and gathered up all the things a typical Japanese high school student would have. I see, somewhat confused. Sosuke picked up a little square of vinyl that contained a rubbery-looking circle. That's a condom, said Mao. I know, but I can't figure out why a high school boy would need one. Don't play innocent, you hornball. As a matter of fact, I have used them many times, said Sosuke. They can hold an entire liter of liquid. Melissa Mao's mouth dropped open. Yes, if you lost your canteen in the jungle, these can be a real lifesaver, Sosuke concluded earnestly. If that's so, Master Surgeon Mao rolled his eyes. Crunching a remote, Kurtz ushered Sosuke in front of an LCD screen. Okay, take a look at this. These are Japanese high school students, so pay attention. When Kurtz hit play, a generic-looking classroom filled the screen. It looked like it was evening, and there were only 2 students in the classroom. Despite there being plenty of space in the room, they were standing in a corner, very close to each other. I always thought of you as a childhood friend, admitted the young man, slowly laying out the words, until now. I can't believe it took me this long to realize the way I feel about you. Oh, Taro, gasped the girl, hugging the boy. As the young man leaned in to kiss her, the door to the classroom creaked open. Turned in surprise, the couple in the corner saw another student standing in the doorway. Naomi, called Karud. How could you? Demanded Naomi, who ran away in tears. The boy started to chase after her, but the girl in the corner pulled on her sleeve and told him to let her go. Kurt hit the pause button. Why did she run? Asked Sosuke. Isn't the girl in the corner her enemy? Kurt's blinked in awe of Sosuke's lack of social sense. Unless Naomi now knows a secret that could get her eliminated. She ran because she's a survivor. Clever girl. Or something like that, said Kurt, rolling his eyes. As the Tuatha de Danaan rested half submerged in the sea like a vigilant hippo, the hatch to its flight deck grown open, revealing the tarmac from which the armed slaves, combat choppers, and VTOL planes can take off. A 7-rotor transport helicopter sat on the flight deck, waiting for permission to leave. The cargo hold was stocked full of all kinds of gear, including an armed slave M9. After tossing a small bag behind the seat, Sosuke fastened her seatbelt. He checked to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything in retro, such as a forged student ID that was stashed in his breast pocket. Mao, who stood next to him, stared at the ID card. You put your real name on there? I did, but I don't exist in Japanese record books anyway, so if a problem arises, I always could change my name. Oh, okay. It's not a problem. Let's get a move on. The helicopter began to prepare for takeoff. Are you nervous? I mean, it's your first day of school, pointed out Kurtz from his position in the back seat. I do my best, replied Sosuke. Tessa seemed worried, commented Mao, referring to the submarine's captain. I'm not surprised. It's an important mission, said Sosuke, eliciting a simultaneous sigh from both Mao and Kurtz. Before they could continue the conversation, the pilot of the helicopter informed them that it was time to take off. Totally sucked, said a disgruntled Konami Shidori. Her dark brown eyes wandered for a moment, surveying the group of students walking with her. As Konami walked, the black hair that hung clear to her hips swayed to and fro at a leisurely pace that were in great contrast to her walking speed. Completely and totally sucked, she concluded after a moment of thought. Kyoto Tokiwa, a classmate, said, Gee, Kana, you haven't talked about anything else all morning. Was it really that terrible? Worse, insisted Konami. He talked incessantly without ever actually saying anything. I did him the favor of going out with him and everything, so you think he can find at least one interesting thing to talk about? Like you, thought Kyoto? His father a designer, he got a friend in a J League. Seems interesting to me. To avoid trouble though, she just said, I mean, there's the life of Zhu Liang, the pollution in the Pacific, religious strife in the Middle East. Are you even listening to me, Kyoto? Or are you just saying, Stop that, Kyoto. The least you can do is listen to my post-date recap. After all, you were the one who introduced me to him. He asked me to. If someone asked you to sell me off to Mako, would you do that too? Ha, you brat, Konami said funnily. As the school came into view, they could see a line of students extending from the front door. Oh man, security searches, groaned Konami. The victims of many random bag and pocket searches. Yeah, it sure is. You don't have anything illegal, don't you, Kana? Not unless they outlawed books over the weekend. Indeed, Kana had several books he borrowed from friends, Living Like Zhu Liang, Warning of the Dolphins, So Long, and Thanks for All the Fish, and Marvels of Archaeology. Did Moai write the Dead Sea Scrolls? As long as you're not smuggling a bomb or guns, quipped Kyoto. Give me some credit. What kind of idiot brings weapons to school? There were a great commission from the front of the line where the teacher, Miss Eri Kagurasaka, grilled one of the students. Do you really think you can get away with something like this on your first day here? No, ma'am. I don't mean to cause trouble. Unless you show me the content of your bag, you may not enter the building. But although the boy seemed unnaturally calm, he also emitted an air of mixed confusion and a desire not to be the center of attention. Who's that? I never seen him around before. Although he had the same stand-up collar as everyone else, he maintained a real sense of mystery about him. It was safe to call the boy handsome, but his tight-lipped mouth and alert eyes indicated an extreme sternness, slightly undermined by his messy black hair. Although he was thin, he looked pretty athletic, as if he participated in an active sport, like judo. Just open the bag, bub. Fed up, Miss Kagazuraka slapped the bag out of his hands. Wait, what do you have in here anyway? I bet there's cigarettes. She thrust open the bag, pushing aside notebooks, textbooks, and a smattering of writing utensils, and uncovering an Australian-made automatic handgun with 3 ammo magazines. There also was a tube of explosions, several detonators, some stun grenades, a tiny camera, and a length of piano wire. Young man, yes ma'am, I don't know what school you come from, but around here, we confiscate toys like this. Excuse me? Please wait in the staff room. It's almost time for class. All the onlookers laugh and move on their way. Gross, he's a military nut, opened Konami. That gave me geek chills. He looked like he might be interesting, declared Kyoto smartly. Poor Sosuke Saga. Though he was at home on any battlefield, and had been raised in international conflict zones. On a high school campus, he was a clueless moron. Perhaps the security is tired here than I have guessed, thought Sosuke, as he and Miss Kagazuraka walked through an empty corridor. At first, when she asked to search his bag, Sosuke thought he might have failed the mission already. After his weapons were confiscated, he resigned himself to following the teacher to the basement, where he assumed they would interrogate and beat him. But then, as all the students submitted to the search, he realized that it was routine. Wait a minute, does that mean that a lot of students bring small arms and explosives to class? Sosuke quietly looked around, but he didn't see anything to support or negate the idea. If all the students were armed, it would make the bodyguard mission a bit more complicated. That meant it was conceivable that anyone, even the volleyball team walking out the hall, can be carrying submachine guns. Sosuke was not only concerned, however, because Kurt Weber was in an M9 Gerdsback, camouflaged in a groove of trees behind the school. If Sosuke called him on his miniature wristwatch radio, the M9 could be there in about 10 seconds. "You're Saxxx? What's your status?" whispered Sosuke into his watch. "Tired and hungry," Kurt replied in Sosuke's hidden earpiece. "Need beer." Miss Kaguzaka continued to lead Sosuke briskly down the hallway. She was a public-looking woman in her mid-20s. She wore a short bob haircut and a tight-skirt gray suit. "Ma'am," began Sosuke, "about that gun. It will be returned to you at the end of the school semester," she interrupted. "That's not the issue. The problem is that there's already a round in the chamber. It's extremely dangerous, so please don't touch the trigger under any circumstances." "Huh? Oh, okay. It's loaded with splat rounds that have an extremely high kill rate, so even an accidental firing will cause fatalities. Handle it with caution, please." "I understand. Don't worry." She clearly did not understand. Against her instructions, Sosuke worried. From the desk in the clamorous classroom, Konami and Kyoto watched Miss Kaguzaka lead Sosuke Saga into the room. Konami and Kyoto conducted a brief wordless conversation through facial expressions and gestures. "Look, there he is. The gun nut." "Quiet down, everyone," shouted the teacher, rapping the audience book against the blackboard. "Take your seats and pipe down. It's time to meet your new classmate." Obediently, the majority of the students quieted. "Okay, Mr. Saga, please introduce yourself." "Yes, ma'am." Sosuke took a step forward. "My name is Surgeon Sosuke Saga," he boomed. Almost immediately, he paled at his own idiocy. "Surgeon So Gay Sagilag," called one of the jokers from the back of the room. "Sir John Silk Galag." "Surgeon, like an army surgeon?" "Quiet, everyone. Give the new student a chance to speak," the teacher ordered sternly, again tapping against the blackboard with her book to quiet the class down. "As for you, Mr. Saga, this is no time for jokes." "I apologize." Previously, Sosuke had never felt so nervous on a mission. The pressure was intense. Letting that one word slip could cause the failure of an entire mission. Swaying profoundly, he snapped her attention and started over. "I am Sosuke Saga. Ignore the surgeon. That is all." "That's it?" "Yes, ma'am. That is all." Miss Kagurasa turned to the class. "Any questions?" "Where are you from, Saga?" "I have lived many places. Afghanistan, Lebanon, Cambodia, Iraq, but I haven't stayed in any one place for so long." The class fell silent. "Wow, sounds like Mr. Saga moved around quite a bit," concluded Miss Kagurasa. "If I'm not mistaken, you transferred here from America, right?" "That's correct," said Sosuke, acknowledging his fake transfer papers, which showed a previous address in Fayette, New Carolina. Although Sosuke never actually had been there, he knew some people who had. One of the students raised his hand, but he didn't wait for the teacher to call him out. "Got any hobbies?" "Model guns," offered someone from the back of the room, and the class interrupted in laughter. "I enjoy fishing and reading," Sosuke said truthfully. Whenever Sosuke had time to spare at Mithro's West Pacific base, he'd drop a line in the water and pick up a good weapon mineral. Even when it rained, he sat out there under an umbrella, immersed in his own little world. "What do you read?" inquired one of the students. Sosuke's eye lit up. "Primarily technical writings and specialized magazines, such as Jane's Fighting Ships, Soldier of Fortune, and Armed Slavery Monthly. I also have read the Japanese AS Fan, which contains surprisingly high-level information. Lately, I've been completely captivated by a series from the Naval Institute Press." Sosuke realized that he had lost 100% of his audience already. He hung his head. "Never mind, please forget that." No need to ask, no one remembered because no one was listening. One of the girls near the front raised his hand. Who are your favorite musicians?" This could be difficult, Sosuke rarely listened to music. He grunted as he recalled the CDs Master Sergeant Mao had given him before he left on the mission. Oh yes, Hayashi, Izaki, and Simp. What a weirdo, exclaimed Konami as she undid the ribbon on the chest of her uniform. I mean, nothing he says makes any sense at all. I don't think he's trying to be funny either. I think he's legitimately messed up in the head. A psycho. As Konami removed her blouse and put it on a hanger, she knocked over the baseball bat that had been leaning against the locker. Darn it, I mean, did you see him during class? He just keeps looking around, and in between classes, he paces around in the hallways. So weird. Really? Asked Kyoto, who was in the process of removing her skirt. I didn't notice. So weird. Seriously, it annoyed me just to look at him. Then don't look at him. I wasn't, protested Konami as she just readjusted her bra. Why would I look at a maniac like that? But this is the worst. The worst. A couple times, I caught him looking at me. He played like it was an accident and just looked away, but it was creepy. Creepy. A lot of guys look at you, Kana. You're really pretty, you know, commented Kyoto with a tang of ivy. She pulled up her socks and reached for orange softball pants. Thanks, but it's not like that. It's like he's up to something. You know, Kana, you've been ragging on Saga non-stop. I have? With long strides, Sosuke crossed the school guards, stopping in front of the athletic club wing. Surveying the building, he saw there were 6 windows in a row on the second floor. He located the stairs. He went up. Yes, you have, said Kyoto. Kyoto knew Konami very well, including that Kana was quite popular despite having a dangerous mouth and a very candid demeanor. She was generally very good-natured, so much so that she practically had been forced into the position of steering council vice president. For Konami to criticize someone she didn't really even know and to do it behind his back, well, that was a very rare thing indeed. For someone you're not interested in, you sure seem to talk about Saga an awful lot. Don't be ridiculous. It's not like that. Ha 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 ha. As a longtime friend, Kyoto also understood that Konami's laugh roughly translated to, I don't know, but I don't want to talk about it. Come on, let's go. Having finished changing into their uniforms, Konami and Kyoto started to leave the changing room, where there were still many girls in various stages of undress. But just as they were about to reach the door, it crashed open finally. 18 changing girls looked into the eyes of the student in the doorway. Sosuke. There were 18 simultaneous gasps. Eee! Shrieks rattled the windows. Sosuke stood there dumbly, wearing a look of profound surprise. Completely wasting a golden opportunity, he barely glanced at all the girls in their underwear. Scantily clad women were only a distraction for the mission at hand, he knew. Springing forward, he grabbed Konami and threw her to the ground. Somehow, by the time they hit the floor, he had drawn a pistol out of an ankle's holster. Everybody, get down! Get down! He yelled as he made a lightning-quick turn through the open door. He waited, gun trained on the doorway. Nothing happened, of course. Keeping Konami pinned to the ground, he kept the gun pointed at the door. He surveyed the room and did not see anyone who appeared threatening. Actually, upon second assessment, there were 18 girls crowding around him with murder in their eyes. 10 minutes later, the mayhem was over. I never suspected he'd done something like this, said Miss Kawazawa, inspecting the .38 caliber revolver. I apologize for the trouble, ma'am, Sosuke said meekly. He looked worn out. His uniform was torn, his face was scratched, his wrists were chained behind his back to a chair with his own handcuffs, which the girl had found clipped to his belt. He never liked interrogations. I'm confiscating this. Please. Sorry, no exceptions. Please unload it. Those are hollow point rounds. Very dangerous. Oh, for the love of... Miss Kawazawa trailed off. Then she stood up. Miss Shidori, I'm leaving him in your custody. What? I have a staff meeting. We're planning the class trip, you know. He definitely is to blame for all the chaos, so talk it over with the other girls and decide how to deal with him, okay? It was unclear whether the teacher trusted Konami or simply was irresponsible. Either way, she was gone already. Sosuke, who regarded Miss Eri Kawazawa the same way Cambodians viewed UN peacekeepers, was extremely disheartened to see her go. Under the intense glowing of so many pissed-off young women, Sosuke had a good idea what was in store for him. The Javina Accord state. The what? Never mind. Konami had no reason to know anything about those. She probably thought Javina was the capital of Brazil. So Sagara, what's the big idea? I mean, being a pervert is one thing, but you have to be retarded to jump in here like a freaking commando. Are you mental or what? Mental? You mean smart? How can I be retarded and mental at the same time? What is the meaning of this contradiction? Sosuke realized it didn't matter. Each second felt like eternity. You psycho, look at this. Konami rolled up his sleeve. See that? My elbow all skinned up because of you. What are you gonna do about that? Sosuke assessed the damage. The skin was not broken, but it was a little bit red. The injuries Sosuke had sustained during that fray were far worse, but no one seemed to care about that. Finally he spoke. It should heal really quickly. That's mean, you creep. A girl's injury lasts a lifetime. So, what do you have to say for yourself? Apologize to Kana. Sosuke felt like a tank caught in crossfire. As far as he can tell, it appeared that they did not appreciate his actions. I'm sorry for violently handling you, said Sosuke, but please, let the record show that it was not my intention to cause you or your friends any harm. Then what were you doing? I'm afraid that information is classified. What do you mean classified? Tell me. No, I'm sorry. Pushing her bangs off her forehead, Konami said, tell us why you came here in the first place. Thinking quickly, Sosuke answered, I want to join a club. None of the girls knew how to respond to that. I was a member of a similar club at my last school. I'm very proud of my participation, and that's why I was hoping to join. I'm confident in my physical strength. Think you will only benefit for including me. So what do you think? Internally, Sosuke commended himself for the bold delivery of his impassioned plea. Look, Sagara, began to fluster Konami. This is, well, it's the girls' softball club. Sosuke perceived this information. So, boys can join? Of course not. I think the circumstances warrant an exception, don't you? Fed up, the girls pick up Sosuke, chair and all, and kick them down the stairs. On the display screen, a black-haired girl opened the door to her apartment and went inside. After she swung the door shut, there was the gratifying sound of a lock clicking into place. 1845 hours. Angel is safe at home. No shadows, reported Melissa Mao into a walkie-talkie-like device. She toggled the display to see what Kurtz was up to with the AS. She couldn't see Kurtz, of course, because of ECS, but she knew that he would be running along the road and probably would be back in a couple of minutes. Mithro's Intelligence Bureau prepared a base for the mission, a safe house of sorts. Just across the district line, they had a good view of Mitsuru's apartment. Their room didn't have any real furniture, just a cheap table and some folding chairs. Still, the apartment was pretty full, loaded up with small weapons and surveillance equipment. I can't get over how expensive everything is here in Tokyo, grumbled Mao to no one in particular. She polished off a hamburger. Then she pulled out her menthol cigarettes, firing one up. Shortly after that, Sosuke entered. Mao laughed out loud when she saw him. His hands were chained to a strange-looking chair, which he had been dragging behind him the whole way. Oh, Sosuke, you made a friend. It's a chair. I can see that. Why are you dragging that old thing around? Because I can't get the handcuffs off. They're hanged model, and the keyhole pointed through my elbow. Give me a break, Mao chuckled as she pulled out her own master key and undid the cuffs. Thanks, said Sosuke. Then he related the details of the day, and that's what happened. Buying the subway ticket at Sangawa Station was the most difficult part. What's the matter, Mao? Pinching the top of her nose between two fingers, she said, It's nothing, just a little headache. Oh, perhaps you should rest a little. Interrupting that thought, a small electronic sound singled a transmission from Kurt. This is USO 6, done for the day. Does one of you want to switch with me? He pleaded. The M9 was safely inside a makeshift hangar, an oversized trailer in a nearby parking lot. Are you sure no one saw you, Kurt? I almost kicked an old man. Every dog in a 2-mile radius barked his head off. I nearly smashed up a pachinko parlor. I stopped to rest against an elementary school and cracked the windows. You should have seen the little dudes freak out. At any rate, no one saw the M9. With a less skilled pilot, the new misses may have ended in disaster. Maybe this isn't the best way to go about this, after all, suggested Mao. If we stick to the plan around the clock, then yes, it may be possible, agreed Sosuke. I think it would be best to have the AS on standby here, starting tomorrow. It seems like such a waste of its firepower and sensors, though, reasoned Mao, because the M9 was the absolute latest in AS technology. It was fully equipped with electronics that cost tens of millions of dollars. Its audio detection system opened a small filter that altered the pilot to potentially dangerous phases, such as take captives or weapons discharge permitted. On top of that, the M9 had 2 machine guns that easily could take out 20 to 30 unarmed vehicles. In hindsight, the M9 might have been a little too extravagant for the mission at hand, but Mao came from the most extravagant military in the world, the U.S. Air Force. I want to M9 as close to Konami as possible. As long as we avoid rush hour and move along the river, I think we'll be okay. I trust your judgment, declared Sosuke. Somebody swallowed me. I'm exhausted, lamented Kurtz. Miss Shiri gained a phone call. Mao twiddled some knobs on her equipment and offered Sosuke a bare headset. Want to listen? I suppose. The caller was Konami's little sister, who lived on the East Coast in America. They had a friendly chat, touching on many subjects, including the crazy new transfer student, who she described as pretty entertaining at least. When it came time for her to hang up, Konami seemed a little bit reluctant to end the call. Poor girl, living all alone, said Mao sympathetically. I guess she only gets one dose of family a day, through a long-distance call. I'm not sure I understand completely, said Sosuke, but a scheduled communication is a good idea. He thought about this for a minute. It's strange though. In my dealings with Miss Shidori, she was a lot sharper, more aggressive. Of course she was different. She was talking to her little sister. Is that typical? Yes. Noted. I'm also surprised to learn that she doesn't totally despise me. You sound pretty excited about Sosuke. Do I? Sosuke turned to the window and stirred her reflections for any trace of election. Surgeon Sagura sure seems to be having a tough time with his mission, said the girl in the captain's chair, who, according to appearances, was only in the mid-teens. The young woman had large gray eyes and braided ash blonde hair that hung down over her left shoulder. She wore informal clothes, a stylish brown suit that was 2 or 3 sizes too long. Regardless, a captain's rank insignia sparkled on her collar, and although the awards and decoration common to most captains were nowhere to be found on her chest, the girl Tessera Tarosa, aka Tessa, was captain at Danaan. Captain, only a small group of people knew the reason why. One of them, Lieutenant Commander Kaelin, stood behind her in a submersible command center, which was about the size of a small theater. It was a thread of the Danaan's brain, unifying the ships and its combat teams. It could be a valuable learning experience from him, opined Kaelin. The young captain continued to scan the most recent report from Melissa Mao, which detailed Sosuke's adventures in a business-like fashion. Firearms confiscated, assaulted by a gang of civilians, including the guarded target, returned to safe home in exceedingly disabled state, tied to a chair. Nothing he can handle, Captain. True, Master Saga is a top-notch surgeon. Even so, I'm glad he has Miss Mao and Mr. Weber with him. Tessa paused to look at the clock. One for GMT and one for JST on the display screen. Lieutenant Commander, how long do you think those 3 will have to be in Tokyo? It could be several weeks until we locate and suppress the source of the threat, Captain. In spite of his physical seniority, Kaelin responded with immense respect. So it all depends on the progress of our mission, concluded Tessa as she studied the marine chart on the display screen. If everything goes according to plan, we will eliminate the need to guard Konami Shidori, as well as the rest of the whispered candidates. For the time being at least. Yes, unfortunately. Kaelin excused himself. Then he saluted and left. 2 cars sat parked atop a lonely bridge that straddled a frozen river. Apparently all noise in the outlying area also had frozen solid, as it were dead quiet. 3 men stood in the corner of the bridge, one Asian man in a fancy Italian coat, and 2 Russians, both clad in KGB uniforms. Too quiet, grumbled the Asian man, adjusting his slick hair. There was a large scar on his forehead, a remarkably straight line that resembled a knife slash or a bullet's kiss. It looked almost like a third eye. Quit whining. You're the one who descended this meeting place, said the more corpulent of the 2 KGB men, a colonel according to the decoration of a soldier. I was referring to the activity between your ears. I can hear the moth wings flapping. The colonial captain next to the colonial leaned forward. What'd you just say? The colonial restrained himself. The Asian man laughed. At least the colonial has decent people skills. It is not an error, protested the irritated colonial. The whispered test subject was stolen, and there's a good chance they got their hands on the candidates list too. Without a test subject, we can't conduct the research. It's as simple as that. The colonial sounded irritated, and with good reason. The research he spoke of was being conducted without permission from the party's central committee. If they detected his unauthorized activities were a failure, he most certainly would be sent to a labor camp. So go on. Are you through investigating the enemy's objective? More or less. Take a look, said the scarred man, holding the colonial photograph. I ran an image enhancer on this photo you gave me. In the photo, there was a vague outline of an AS. And using ECS, that's why the outlines are blurred as if they were melting into the surroundings. It appeared to be carrying a backpack, maybe transporting VIPs up that mountain slope. The AS looked slick, remarkably similar to a human. Impressed, the colonial raised an eyebrow. What is this? I'm not familiar with this type. It's a Mithril AS, Goron cheerfully responded. Much too advanced for you to worry about. Mithril? It's a secret organization of mercenaries. The equipment is a good 10 years ahead of the rest of the world. Top guns, elite soldiers. You haven't heard of them? Mithril was an enigmatic force, perpetually present in the shadows of international conflicts. They attack armed guerrilla bases and destroy drug manufacturing plants. They illegally annihilated terrorist camps and prevented nuclear weapons smuggling. Mithril's mission was to extinguish the flames of regional conflicts. Consequently, they weren't on any particular side. Why would they interfere with my project at the Colonial? Probably because it's dangerous. If you were to succeed, it would upset the world balance of power. So they're going to make it hard for us to capture a new Whisper candidate, I suspect. Having one of the Whisper girls in their custody was absolutely essential to the project's success. Now that theirs were lost, they simply wouldn't have to find another. I can abduct one, but it takes some time. It's more trouble than killing one, said Gohan. Does that mean an increase in your fee? Growled the Colonial. Smiling, Gohan said, I'm a businessman, not a communist. Very funny, you yellow monkey, shouted the captain. You're completely replaceable. How about you show some thanks to the Colonial who kept hiring you anyway? I am thankful for your patronage, responded Gohan. You Chinamen are all empty promises, roared the captain. What an insightful comment. I'm not Chinese though, corrected Gohan. Either way, you're all the same. Wait until I send you to the old mountain coal mines and turn your granny yellow face black, you puny pig. You, sir, are very annoying. With the skills and speed of a card shark, Gohan pulled a pistol from under his coat. It was such a smooth and simple action. It looked as if he were pulling out a cell phone. The red point of a laser sight dotted the captain's forehead. A gunshot shattered the nighttime quiet. Blood, skull fragments, and pieces of the brain littered the snow. The captain's body, with the surviving half of his head, collided to the ground with a thud. Now, where were we? Oh yes, discussing the terms of the kidnapping. Gohan nonchalantly put away his pistol. He looked at the case file the Colonial has gave him earlier. Ah, here. This is it, said Gohan. Is there a problem, Colonial? That's one of my men. But really, you just brought him here to intimidate me, da? Said Gohan cruelly. At least you don't have to babysit him anymore. Now, let's get down to business. Speechless, the Colonial let the madman take the wheel of the conversation. Riffling through the documents, Gohan counted roughly 15 separate files with the personal information of 15 Whisper candidates. Judging by the photos alone, the boys and girls, different nationalities and race, but all roughly the same age, mid to late teens. Now, which one do you want me to get? I know. It's already decided. You want? Gohan shuffled through the papers. This one. Hey, she's pretty cute. To the Colonial, Gohan presented a photograph of Konami Chidori. Chomping on fries from the burger joint beneath the department store, Konami and her friends gabbed merrily.